What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It's your boy Goblin, and today we're coming in with a hoot and a holler, a true banger of a video. I hope you guys enjoy this one. Drop a like if you do. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Check out the new disposables I just dropped on OnlyGas. You know where to find it. And without further ado, let's dive into it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is a very important video. This is a video that I really hope all of you guys that consume substances watch in its entirety. This is a video that I've been wanting to make for a long time, and in today's video, we're talking about the 5 Drug Addict Commandments, the 5 most important rules that any drug consumer, whether it's a casual user, a full-blown addict, or you're on the street shooting up xylazine, should always follow. Although, honestly, if you're the last option, I think you're a little past these options. But either way, this is important information that all of you should know, and these are things that I've learned through my years upon years of drug addiction. So without further ado, let's get into the 5 Drug Addict Commandments. Now, coming in with the very first one, the first and arguably most important commandment for you all is never ever mix 2 hard drugs together. Now listen, I know there's certain substances that have synergy. I know sometimes it's very tempting to mix your Coke in your Molly, or your Coke in your K, or your K in your Molly, or whatever it may be. But generally, the only thing that you should really be combining with other stuff is weed, and that's about it. Now, in the pinned comment of this video, I'm going to have a chart linked that shows you guys all of the different safe combinations for drugs. However, don't take this as a definitive end-all be-all. Don't look at the chart and see that something is mildly dangerous and be like, oh, well, I won't die, and go and do it, right? The chart is more of just a general guideline of, are you going to kill yourself doing this or not? And it's very important. I would recommend that all of you guys, whether you consume substances or not, familiarize yourself with this chart. Take a look at it, memorize some of the most frequent combos that you find yourself doing, and go from there. There's a lot of important knowledge to be had here. But the thing is, a lot of drugs on their own won't necessarily kill you, right? For example, Xanax on its own won't necessarily kill you. Alcohol on its own won't necessarily kill you unless you really drink a shitload. However, once you combine them both, then you can actually die. When I was in high school, my best friend suffocated in his sleep off this combination. So I'm not just talking out of my ass here. This is real life stuff. Another reason that you should generally avoid combining hard drugs, beyond the danger, which is definitely the most important reason, is there's just not really a lot of research about how these interactions affect your body. There's already not a ton of research behind how drugs affect your body long term to begin with, and there's even less research behind how the combinations affect your body. So no one can really tell you what damage you're doing to yourself until like 50 years from now. I guess we'll find out. If that's a risk you want to take, then go for it. But as I've gotten older and I've gotten through my drug use, one thing that I've realized is I really wish I could go back and undo some of the dangerous combinations and habits that I made when I was younger, because they did have a lasting impact. If someone approaches you and they offer you maybe a bump of some blow and K at the same time, don't take it just because you saw them do it, and that means that you'll be okay. They have a different tolerance than you. You don't know where they got their stuff from. They probably haven't tested it. And personally, if I had anything that was worth any money and wasn't cut, I definitely wouldn't be offering it up. So just be very wary of combining hard substances. It's dangerous, and nowadays, all these drugs are cut with other shit. If you're lucky when you do, let's say, coke and ketamine together, you're lucky if all you're doing is actually just coke and ketamine. You could be unknowingly combining all sorts of stuff. It just increases your risk exponentially. Combining hard drugs is never worth it. You can have a much more fun time just doing them separately, and you can save your money and your substances. Now, the next item on this list is one that I would argue is kind of a recent development, and one that I really didn't follow at all whatsoever when I was younger. However, it's because times were different when I was younger. And the next commandment on this list is to only acquire pills from the pharmacy. Listen, I know like 95% of y'all watching this are not gonna follow this rule. I know you little fiends, dude. You guys want the pressies. You guys want the little fake shit. But listen, when I was younger, when I was in high school, the pressies were just bad, right? They were just chalky, or they were pressed with fillers. They weren't really pressed with anything that was gonna kill you. Nowadays, everything under the sun is being cut with fent or a million other research chemicals that no one knows anything about. People are cutting coke with fentanyl. People are cutting Xans with fent. Of course, they're cutting the opiates with fent because it's an opiate, but they're cutting non-opiates with opiates now. It is more dangerous than it's ever been to buy pills off the plug, and it is not acceptable to pick up a pill from anywhere but the pharmacy in today's drug climate. It is downright suicide. I promise you, if you pick up Pressy after Pressy Xan day after day for 5 years straight, you're probably going to be dead. And I'm not joking about that. And if you're not going to be dead, you're going to be way too addicted to the fent that you've been taking to go back. And it's going to be way worse than being dead. So trust me, you really, really, really do not want to take pills off the street. Nowadays, the plugs are selling colored pills. They're making rainbow perks and rainbow Xans and adding food coloring if you're lucky, or something way worse if you're unlucky. It is bad out there for the pill poppers. And honestly, if I was doing the drugs that I was doing when I was younger nowadays, I would be dead right now. This channel would not exist. If the pills that were around today hit the market when I was younger, I would 110% be dead right now, because I didn't consider anything. I didn't ask anyone where they got their pills from. I didn't care if they were script. I just assumed that they were okay because my friend gave them to me. And that's just not enough anymore. Maybe back in the day it was enough, but nowadays this shit is more dangerous than ever, guys. And you really have to have a lot of discrepancy and do your due diligence as to where you're getting your drugs from and whether or not they're safe. And that brings me into my next commandment, the third drug commandment. Ladies and gentlemen, thou shalt use a drug testing kit always. Now listen, when I say always, I don't mean like the first time you grab off a plug, you test it, and now it's good, so you don't test anymore. I mean every single time you buy a fresh bag, you should be using a testing kit. Now, there's different kits that work for different substances, but a really good blanket testing kit for your most commonly used drugs is a marquee kit. Now, you can get these online for about $20, and often they'll come with little vials that you can drop your substance into. And don't think that you have to waste a lot to test anything. You can drop like a 0.01 gram of whatever substance you're trying to test, the littlest speck of a Xan or whatever pill you have, into a little test tube and drop a little drop of this marquee test in there, and it will tell you what you've got. Now, this nowadays is more important than ever. This is essential, especially with the fent going around, the newer stuff coming out. It's getting dangerous out there, and it's really important to know what you're taking and whether it's cut or not, because nowadays everything's fake, guys, and test kits are cheap. It's only $20, and they're not a one-time use. This is something that you can use repeatedly, right? You're going to get a fair bit of tests out of just one little testing kit. So realistically, it's only a couple bucks to test a bag every time you pick it up, and that is worth a lot more than your life. That is a very, very good exchange, ladies and gentlemen. A couple bucks versus overdosing and dying is a wonderful, wonderful exchange. And, you know, I wish that more of my friends listen to this as I've gotten older, because when I was 17, my best friend overdosed and died. As I've gotten older, I've watched more of my friends overdose and die, but that was the closest person to me that I've had pass away in my entire life yet. Closer than family members, closer than anything. That is the closest person to me that I've ever had pass away in my life. And as I've gotten older, I've just watched more of my friends. I've had more people that I went to school with die, and I've had more people that I go to school with just end up in a shit situation where these people are just, they're not living well. They're homeless. They're living out of cars. They're couch surfing. They're addicted to whatever the fuck. I have a homie who went out to the East Coast, and he was like, oh yeah, you know, I'm getting a new job out there. You know, my homie's opening a smoke shop. It's going to be great. He's just homeless out there now. He's homeless out there now. I don't know where he is anymore. He's just on the streets now. He's on the streets. Like, last I heard of him, he's just shooting up. I don't know what the fuck he's doing anymore. And it's sad, bro, because if my friends, when we were younger, just tested their shit, took the precautions that they should have been taking, that I should have been taking, that we all should have been taking, it would have been a really, really different outcome for a lot of my homies. And it's sad for me to see that shit. And I hope that by making this video, I can help some of you guys avoid that path, because it sucks, bro. It's not fucking cool. When I was like 16 and 17, doing all these drugs with my friends was fun. And it was dope. And we were all having a good time and we were partying because we had no responsibilities and we weren't adults yet. But now that we're adults, the drugs have absolutely devastated most of my friends' lives. I have very few friends that are functional drug users. At best, they just still live with their parents and are unemployed. At worst, they're dead or in jail. It's not fun, man, and it's not worth it. Test your drugs, make sure you know what you're doing, and don't accidentally take a substance that you don't want to take. Opiates and fent in particular are extremely addictive, and if you don't test your stuff and make a habit of taking pressies, you're going to end up in a really, really bad situation. Now, the fourth commandment, ladies and gentlemen, the fourth commandment for all drug users, consumers, and enthusiasts watching this video is thou shalt never trust the plug. Now, listen, I don't care who the plug is, bro. I really don't. I don't care if it's El Chapo. I don't care if it's Joe Biden. I don't care if it's George W. Bush. I don't care if it's Mao Zedong. I don't give a damn. Do not listen to that man or woman or they, right? Do not take their word. If the plug tells you that they tested it, it doesn't matter. They better test it again in front of you. If the plug tells you something is what it is, don't believe it. Take it with a grain of salt. Because the thing is, even when you're re-upping off your homie, even when you're best friends with the plug, and it's not really the plug, it's more of just your friend who's serving you, sometimes they don't know. Sometimes they're misled and they're misinformed. And you can't just play a game of telephone with all the plugs all the way up and trust that that's going to keep you safe forever, because it's not. Sometimes people serve things and they don't even know that it's cut. They have no idea. I couldn't tell you the amount of times in high school that I just went and grabbed pills off random homies that were certainly cut, and they probably had no idea what was in them. They don't know, but they would look me dead in the eye and tell me, nah, these are real. These are script, bro. Nah, these are legit. My plug told me so. Look, they came in a bottle. Now, when I say never trust the plug, I don't mean like don't trust him, period, giving him money in advance or fronting or, trust a word he says, but it really is more so about the substances that they're serving you, because a lot of the time they might not even know. They could be misinforming you and really genuinely not mean to. You have to take everything with a grain of salt, because nowadays, by the time it's reached your plug, chances are a lot of other hands have touched whatever you're grabbing, and not all of those hands are going to be good ones. And that's something that you just got to remember. And as more and more people start doing drugs and more people consume these substances and become addicts, you have to remember that that just means there's more hands that these drugs are going through, which means more opportunities to cut, which means more dangerous substances, which means more overdoses, which means you have to be more careful. Do your due diligence. Don't trust a word that anyone says. Buy a test kit and be careful. Do drugs safely. It's okay to consume substances. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's not, but it's not okay to do it dangerously, and it's not okay to not do your due diligence. If you really are on a suicide mission, then I can't stop you. But a lot of people that do drugs don't want to die. They just want to have a good time, and this video's for those people. Now, the fifth and final commandment, ladies and gentlemen, is a really important one. And this relates less to your own personal safety and more to the safety of others, those around you. And the fifth commandment is thou shalt never encourage other non-drug users to consume. And what I mean by that is if you have a homie, let's say, you're doing some lines and you've got a homie around you. If they aren't asking to try it, don't give it to them. Now listen, I understand. Drugs are very social, right? They're a social thing. If I'm doing a bump and, my homie with me asked to try it, realistically, I'm probably going to oblige. But don't be that guy who goes around telling everybody, yo, take a bump of this shit. Come on, pussy. Do that shit. You got to remember that not everyone wants to do what you're doing, and not everyone is going to have the same tolerance as you. You could have some really strong shit that could fuck somebody else up, and then you're in a whole lot of trouble, and all you meant to do was just have a good time, right? And also, you don't want to lead other people down a path of addiction. You don't know what other people have going on. You don't know what other people's tendencies are like. You don't know if they have an addictive personality. And you don't want to be the reason that someone ends up an addict. You never, ever want to do that. At the end of the day, I'm not saying that you should go around and every time a homie approaches you and asks to do something with you, you're like, no, you shouldn't do that. But don't be that annoying ass dude at the function who's going around trying to force everybody to do whatever. Like, yo, we all gotta pop Molly. We all gotta roll right now. You're not rolling, you pussy. Let's get lit in this bitch. Those are the most insufferable people at the function every single time. Don't be that guy. Respect people's choices. And also, if you don't go force stuff on people, that means you get more for yourself, which is a lot more fun in my opinion. I remember when I was younger, me and my friends were hanging out with a chick, and we were all doing some ketamine, and she was asking us questions about it, but she didn't really ask to do any, and we were like, oh, come on, you should try some, and we encouraged her to, and she did it, and this is when I was way younger, like 16, so we were just some kids at this point, and she did it, and she had a terrible time. She was throwing up, she had the spins, and I give this rule because of personal experience. I've done that. I've been the guy who was like, oh, do this shit. And they didn't have fun. I learned a valuable lesson from that day. And that lesson was keep my drugs to myself unless asked otherwise, ladies and gentlemen. That's a very important one. Folks, stay safe out there. Drugs nowadays are more dangerous than ever, and they're showing no signs of getting safer. Nowadays, the fentanyl is the weak shit. They got xylazine. They got all this new stuff, all these tranquilizers coming out. Being a drug user is terrifying right now. It's scary. And I want all of you watching this video to stay safe. Really, truly, I love you guys, man. I don't want any of you guys to get hurt consuming substances. I don't want any of you guys to damage yourselves or kill yourself or do anything like that consuming these substances. You gotta be safe. And I hope that some of you guys could learn something from this video and maybe develop some safe drug using habits. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Drop a like if you did. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Doses.